We are back with our Meet the Athlete series, which can only mean one thing. World's Strongest Man 2023 is approaching, and we thought, why not start going absolutely massive? So we're taking a look at the one and only four-time World's Strongest Man winner, Brian Shaw. So, Auntie Liz, we are starting with one of the greatest strongmen of all time. The four-time winner of World's Strongest Man, Brian Shaw, won multiple competitions throughout his career. What interesting information have you got for us this year?
Well, we're going to look at some facts and stats about Brian in a minute. But of course, Brian has announced that this is going to be his last ever World's Strongest Man. Now, the strive for 5 has been a thing for a few years. Do you think this could be the year, Lozzie? We'll go deeper later, obviously. But
we'll go deeper. He is, in my opinion, definitely a contender.
So in this year's Meet the Athletes series, we're going to be looking at some facts and stats about each of the athletes and then looking at the events for this year's World's Strongest Man to see what we think their chances are in this year's competition. So Brian holds so many records at the World's Strongest Man, and one of the most impressive, in my opinion, is the fact that he ties Zydrunas Savickas for first place for the most podium finishes at the World's Strongest Man, which is currently on 10. So of course, if he gets on the podium this year, he will hold that record on his own.
Brian Shaw is going to be returning for his 16th appearance at the World's Strongest Man. Only one man has appeared more than that, which is the one and only Mark Felix.
Brian holds the world record for the most finals and the most consecutive finals at World's Strongest Man, which currently stands at 14.
I think that's one of the most impressive stats on here, just to have that consistency over such a long period of time. And another incredible fact, he has won 59 individual events at the World's Strongest Man, which again is more than anyone else.
Across his career, Brian has won an incredible 26 international competitions, which of course includes 4 World's Strongest Man titles and 3 Arnold Strongman Classic titles too.
So if Brian does go on to win World's Strongest Man this year, he will become the oldest athlete ever to win. Currently stands at 38 by Zydrunas Savickas, but also it would be the longest gap between wins as well, which would be 7 years, which I think the most we've ever seen is only 2 in the past. So lots on the line for Brian in his final World's Strongest Man contest.
So then let's have a look now and see how we rate Brian's chances at the World's Strongest Man this year. Starting off, of course, with the qualifying stages, because while Brian has qualified the last 14 years in a row, a little bit of a scare last year for him, wasn't there?
Yeah, first time we've ever seen him in the stone-off. Obviously ended up being against Bobby Thompson, and he got through pretty easily in the end. And he does have that luxury of being one of the best stone lifters. Yeah. So I would be extremely shocked if Brian wasn't to make it through to another final. So 6 events in the heats if needed. We've got the loading event, we've got the cone and circle, we've got the log ladder, the deadlift and the kettlebell throw. And then if he is in the second or third position, there is the stone off as well. I think Brian coasts through with these events. I can't see Brian really being outside the top 3, so I'm pretty confident he makes it to the final, could well win the group, but he's always got that banker of stones being such a strong event for him. Now, when you look at the events for the final this year, I think as soon as Brian saw them, he would have been a very happy man.
On paper, they're perfect for him, aren't they?
There's not one event here. You look at this, right? Fingers, he is one of the absolute best. Fingers has kind of been sporadic over the last few years, but there was a time it was at every single Worlds. And it was fair to say, Brian and Zydrunas were the top 2 on this event. They were unbelievable, well prepared on it, well trained on it. That's going to be a big advantage because a lot of the newer guys won't have used these as many times as someone like Brian. So he could well be a favourite to take that event.
Next up, the deadlift for reps. Now, Brian's top end strength for deadlift is down in recent years, but he's still very decent for reps, and I'm sure he'd prefer this sort of setup with the Kanak deadlift over a max deadlift event.
Yeah, like we've seen some amazing deadlift performances from Brian in the past. His deadlift isn't where it used to be. No. There's a lot of good deadlifters now, so he's going to need to make sure preparation's good. Hopefully the body's feeling good, but you wouldn't expect to see him any lower than sort of mid-table, I think. Shield carry. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting one. He's got long arms, tall, and he's looking fitter than we've seen him in a while. So again, it could be a very good event. Depends how much he wants it. How much is he putting in the work and training hard? Brian, we've seen over the last few years, a lot of work going on, a lot of distractions, putting on a big competition. He's got a family. I've said all these little things. But one thing I've noticed with this year, he seems to be laser focused. Knowing this is going to be his last Worlds, he wants to go out with a bang. He's not putting out as many kind of videos as he normally does. He's clearly working very hard preparing for this show.
So next is one of the events I'm probably most looking forward to, especially seeing how Brian will do on the Max Dumbbell event. Never seen a Max Dumbbell before at World's Strongest Man.
Not at Worlds, and I think Brian will be very happy about a dumbbell. He's always done well at the dumbbell at the Arnold's and at other competitions. I don't believe I've ever seen him do a Max Dumbbell before. It's usually the heavy dumbbell for reps at the Arnold's, for instance, but he's always been good on dumbbell. I think it's probably his best overhead.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's guys that I believe can beat him, but I certainly can't see that many people beating him.
Yeah.
And then we move on to another good event for Brian Shaw, the vehicle pull. He's won plenty of vehicle pulls in the past, a number at World's Strongest Man. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he has experience on these type of events. Once again, could be another fantastic event for Brian.
And finally, they are finishing on the Atlas Stones, which has always been a brilliant event for Brian, hasn't it?
I think if you're a Brian Shaw fan, you look at these events and you will get excited.
Yeah.
Regardless of what stage of Brian's career he's in, you look at this and you think, fingers, he's amazing at. That could potentially be a win. Deadlift, mid-table, that's decent points. Shield carry, even that at mid-table is decent points. The Max Dumbbell, potentially top 3.
Top 3, yeah.
You know, the vehicle pull, potentially a win. Atlas Stones, top 2, top 3. These are extremely good events for Brian, and he doesn't need to win any of them. If he's consistently, well, Brian's proved it many times himself as well. You don't have to win every single event, but as long as you don't have a weakness, you make yourself hard to beat. And for this reason, I really think Brian has a chance this year. For me, he is a top 5 athlete. I think there's a number of amazing athletes this year that are going to be having a close battle. But Brian Shaw is one of the guys you will put in who has potentially a chance to take this title.
Now, just to play the protagonist slightly, he's got great events for him, as you pointed out, but he has disadvantages too, doesn't he? He's going to be one of the oldest athletes there at 41 years old. It's been 7 years since he won the World's Strongest Man, and like you said earlier, 2 years is the longest gap we've ever seen. So he would break 2 records straight away by winning. He'd break a record by getting on the podium. He'd have the most podiums ever at 11.
What a way to go out for Brian.
Yeah.
You know, he said it's going to be his last one. That mentality changes a little bit. It does add pressure. You know, he knows it's going to be his last one. He's going to feel that pressure. But when you look at the kind of obvious stats in front of us, the events are very favourable to him. He is physically still capable. If he's mentally in the right frame of mind and his body kind of holds out, he's going to be a threat. I won't sit here and say he's going to win.
No.
But you certainly cannot ignore the fact that with these events and an in-shape Brian, he's going to be a contender. And if he does finish by either getting on the podium or taking the win overall, I think he'll go down as the greatest strongman we've ever seen so far.
Blimey.
Right, guys, I hope you enjoy these Meet the Athlete series videos. We've got 29 more to come. Remember, give us a like, share and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. Stay strong.